You are about to receive downloaded content. Subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive transmissions straight to your inbox. Go to downloadedcontent.com to follow us on your platform of choice.
This piece of literature will be exclusively for Pneumatics, as you are the only audience that I'm sure can receive it. This being the case, your humble author, narrator, and fictional character is forced to accept that only a minority of eyes will have made it past the first sentence. There will be no qualifiers here to allow you to ascertain whether you are a pneumatic or not. You either know you are or are no longer reading. In any case, let us begin. Not too long ago, I finally entered the world of Grand Theft Auto 5 on my faithful yet aging PlayStation 4, as it was the last simulated world on my shelf that I had avoided immersing myself in. One has to be in the right mindset to embody that kind of controlled shadow work, and while it took me years to get into it, I was very thankful once I did. As anyone who has played a Rockstar game knows, they spare no attention to detail in the vast, simulated worlds they craft, and when it comes to the criminal underworld, a certain type of darkness is required to fully invest in the story. And make no mistake, for yours truly, it is always about story. I'm not one of those pretentious completionists that needs 100% in every trophy of dopamine that can be obtained. No, once I know how the story ends for the characters I've invested in, the eject button is finally pressed on the disc, containing all the data of the reality I had lost myself in. Thus, after the credits rolled and the game allowed me free reign over the world I had lived in for 40 plus hours, I sat there with the controller in my hand, wondering what to do with Trevor, Michael, and Franklin. While there were plenty of side quests, activities, and lively NPCs left to keep my avatars busy in Los Santos for hours upon hours post plot, something about the world simply felt dead. I could still race all over the sprawling city and bring chaos to the inhabitants of that digital world inside the box on my TV stand with just as much fervor as before I knew how it all ended for the main protagonist. But it just didn't feel as gratifying. It just seemed like I would be going through the motions each time I powered it up, and that was no fun. This has been the experience of pneumatics on planet Earth for the past few years as well, when logging into the skin suits we wear each rising sun. The world at large is still filled with mundane tasks to be carried out and a never-ending sea of Hylic faces we interact with, but something of substance has been missing as of late, and I would suggest it's the same issue I found with GTA 5 upon its storyline completion. There is no further progression of plot for we protagonists who came here for a higher evolution than the Hylics who hang on apocalyptic edging from every screen they stare into and every platform that continually convinces them that it's about to be the end of the world as they know it each and every day. An Armageddon that never actually arrives, mind you. Nevertheless, this end of the world edging keeps them scrolling, swiping up again and again to get just a few more tidbits on the inevitable collapse of the economy or the coming nuclear holocaust or the draft that will turn 82% of their children into hamburger meat in the Middle East. Every 24-hour news cycle keeps them close to the climax of oblivion, but never allows the release that keeps building underneath the flesh. Those of us of a Gnostic persuasion are hip to this game the system is playing. We aren't mystified by the harvesting of emotional energy, commonly called louche, by those in the know. We are aware that there is never meant to be any kind of solution or conclusion to the prepackaged issues of the day that assault our senses through whichever curated app might best pull us into the illusion of the consensus reality whose tracks were laid a very long time ago by a demiurge and its emanations known as the archons. Yet even with this full revelation of the method being held by the students of the Nag Hammadi scrolls, there still seems to be the feeling of frustration or confusion by the psychics with an expectation of some big final spiritual thingamajig that also, like the experience of the Hylics, never actually comes. As they await a conclusion to the physical problems they are bound by, the psychics are being edged in a metaphysical loop also, with a distinct and separate form of energy harvesting they are completely unaware of for the most part. Don't get me wrong. As a pneumatic who sparked up to seek Sophia on the path of Gnosis many, many moons ago, long before YouTube algorithms were saturated with Sethian or Valentinian teachings that show up on your feed as breaking news, I am more than excited that at long last the time Enoch saw in his visionary travels is upon us. It brings me much joy as a Gnostic who had to hide his research or experiences while digging for any scrap of the Nag Hammadi library he could get his hands on, while living behind the enemy lines of the Bible Belt, that terms such as demiurge, archons, or pleroma are becoming commonplace. My spirit swells up with optimism to hear that swaths of souls are now discovering that the generic narrative of the biblical God is the great deception to the 180th degree. I'm overjoyed psychics are realizing that the father that Christ Yeshua spoke of was not the douche from the Old Testament who loved a good genocide from time to time. Rather, was that old serpent the devil that corporate Christians kneel before to this day. Yet, in the midst of this Gnostic revival, I have perceived the perilous approach of religiosity being applied by more than a few, which causes me pause. Allow me to explain what I mean. One evening, while flicking through countless faces of content creators, I came across a guy giving a breakdown of Yaldabaoth and his archons, and in an uncharacteristic of me move, I decided to leave a comment. In that comment, I casually relayed that while his information was well researched and presented, the demiurge had been deposed circa 2017 and the blind god was no longer throwing temper tantrums upon his throne. And while outdated and bound to texts written some 2,000 years ago, the cosmic order had naturally moved on from that. In no way was I expecting to be believed or taken seriously by any measure, and it would have had no consequence to me one way or the other anyway. I was simply nudged to be flippant in the dropping of such gnosis in a meaningless comment section for purposes of amusement more than anything else. Or, to be more accurate, I did it just to see what would happen, with as much seriousness as a Joker variant getting his jollies. Then, a response from the content creator was deposited the next day, after more than a few other users had their curiosity tickled. With a very defensive dialogue toward his followers away from my folly, he insisted they not listen to a word from my digital pen. With a tonality of authority on the subject matter of gnosis, he reassured his imaginary flock that my ramblings were heretical to the source material he was teaching in his content creation, and the concepts of the demiurge, the archons, and their energy harvesting racket were to always be taken in a metaphorical manner and never approached with perhaps a literal manner. This, he proclaimed, is the appropriate application of Gnosticism, which, of course, is the dumbest shit ever, as it turns the open door to being a participant in the cosmic order into an invitation to make yet another dogmatic religion based on scriptures written thousands of years ago that no one can alter or abolish. Even the suggestion of there being heresy in Gnosticism is an affront to what Gnosticism even is. The content creator's approach to the material handed down to us by our forebears in the Gnostic path is solely a psychological one, and hey, that's fine for him, and fine for any other Gnostic that chooses to experience the information in a purely psychological way as well. If their firsthand experience of acquiring the knowledge they hold at present facilitates an interpretive view only of such personalities as Yaldabaoth, Sophia, Christ, Enoch, or any other name one might find in their readings, then for them this is true. But if the core of Gnosticism is in fact the acquiring of knowledge through firsthand personal experience, then who is he to look down his nose at yours truly, if in my gnosis of these personalities, they are in fact individual consciousnesses that can be interacted with, do have a progressive storyline, and their storylines have stayed static for the past 2,000 or so years. The denunciation of a pneumatic's current awareness of cosmic events unfolding in our day has the potential to reduce Gnosticism to the same type of impotency suffered by corporate Christianity or other religions that do not offer active participation in the scenarios they present as the highest reality. When Gnosticism begins gatekeeping what experiences are or are not canon, then it ceases to be Gnosticism at all. This is a tragedy for a system that is unique in that it is the very narrow gate Christ told us about, a gate in which we can enter into the narrative of events and indeed become more than one of the NPC high backdrop people one finds in, say, Grand Theft Auto 5, with full capacity to not only interact with the cosmic narrative, but manipulate as well as rewrite by our actions. Gnosticism is the path of becoming player one ourselves, not just reading about others who became player one by insisting we all can become player one and demonstrating this liberation through action of will. I think this is where the tripartite tractate is essential reading in order to digest where I'm going with this. If you've read it, then the odds are high that you have not simply accepted that 82% of the people populating this plane are Hylics, bound to matter without capacity to ascend any further, but you have experienced this as well. The tractate usually comes into your awareness afterwards to put some literal structure into your actual experience. After the experience of accepting this, you then go back to the drawing board on exactly how you were even supposed to be playing this game. I mean, if the majority of people you perceive are photonic projections of the system itself in a variety of coding, then certain aspirations in life are no longer viable, meaningful, or desirable. Achievements such as fortune, fame, or virility in virtual spaces are clearly pointless, as what they're trying to achieve is akin to what the demiurge was trying to achieve, forcing the system itself to bend, bow, validate, and worship like a reflection of the ego. Boring. As a pneumatic, your attention is drawn towards what the object of our game is. Psychics, those being weighed in the balance of free will and system-imposed karmic debt. You no longer waste your time or energy attempting to change or save the world of Hylics with its endless illusions in theaters of politics, religion, or Hollywood gossip. No, to experience fulfillment again, you contract yourself inward to the truth of there being far, far less conscious sparks able to change or be saved, participating at all in this lobby of reality. As a pneumatic, the object of the game is to assist those psychic sparks still stuck in their cycles of samsara, whose ultimate ending has yet to be determined in the pleroma, due to them having been gifted with free will. In the edification of psychics and aiding them in some way to shine that Sophia within brighter and brighter, a mnemonic once again finds purpose. By performing our mission parameters from the monad with clarity, eagerness, and joy, we do experience the bliss of meaning in our own reality once again, post long dark nights of the soul that usually comes with any kind of awakening, Gnostic or otherwise. Using Grand Theft Auto 5 as the word picture again for reference to the state of affairs in our own simulation, regardless of how you play the game, the hundreds of thousands of NPCs that permeate through the city of Los Santos are wonderful for liminal states of immersion, but you know you are nowhere near as invested in their well-being as you are for the 3 playable avatars. Heck, there are even quite a few side characters that are coded with far more dialogue and interactivity than NPCs who you become quite partial to as well. The difference between them and the rest of the Hylics being the quality of good writing and the nature of their characters. Even though none of them are able to actually connect with the player in any synchronous interface like Trevor, Franklin, or Michael, you know they are special. They have much more spark than the hooker on the corner waiting to hop in Trevor's truck, you could say. So why, for we pneumatics, have the past few years felt like we've beaten the game? Why does it seem that even the storyline for psychics has come to the event horizon of a singularity, where time doesn't seem to be moving forward very much at all, yet does at the same time? In 2026, when Gnostic cosmology and concepts are more available than they have ever been, and the con game of the archons and their demiurge is on the lips of multitudes, why are we pneumatics perceiving this place as a looped modal? In that looped modal, progress has been snipped and stitched in a very small Ouroboros. Why does the game world feel dead? To perhaps pursue an answer to these questions, the aforementioned content creator's heresy must be performed, and we pneumatics must consider that not only are the Gnostic texts able to pull back the veil in regard to the psychological order, but do so as well in the cosmic order. If we have accepted the invitation by the Logos that reached out to us through the Scriptures first and entered into the events transpiring all around us, which the Nag Hammadi translated to us, we experience the ongoing spherical saga within its many layers. While the text gave us the backstory of where we are, what we are, why we are, and a cast of cosmic characters that ultimately must be interacted with to get anywhere, it's a safe bet to say that we didn't enter the game in the beginning, as it were. This being the case, any pneumatic worth their salt is going to want to brush up on recent events in realms unseen, and that is only going to be done through the medium of first-hand experiential acquisition of gnosis, with perhaps a dash of comparing some others' notes.
This episode of Downloaded Content is proudly sponsored by CanaSense Total Wellness. If you're 21 or older, CanaSense offers free membership, 25% off your first order, premium hemp-derived wellness products, and nationwide shipping delivered directly to your door. Joining takes just minutes at canasense.com. Canasense is committed to making wellness simple, affordable, and accessible. Veterans and cancer survivors may qualify for additional discounts, and our team is always available to help you find the products that best fit your needs. Use downloaded content as your sponsor when joining free and get 25% off your first order. Visit canasense.com or call 1-833-633-4208 to get started today. Canasense Total Wellness. Full spectrum wellness shipped nationwide.